Lisa Martinez sat in the metal chair and tried not to roll her eyes. The briefing room on Nexus Prime Station was cold and smelled like recycled air and alien cleaning chemicals. Around the long table sat representatives from 3 different species, all of them looking at the humans like they were children who had wandered into an adult. Meeting. Commander Telvash stood at the front of the room. He was tall and thin like all Zephyrians, with silver skin that seemed to shimmer when he moved. His forearms gestured quickly as he spoke, and his voice had that musical quality that made everything sound like he was singing. The target is a pirate stronghold built inside a hollowed asteroid, Telvash said. His words came out fast, the way all Zephyrians talked. Intelligence reports show approximately 60 hostile combatants, plus an unknown number of captured diplomats being held for ransom. Lisa glanced at her team. Corporal Jake Thompson sat next to her, his broad shoulders filling out his uniform. He was chewing gum slowly and watching the alien commander with steady brown eyes. On her other side, Private First Class Amy Rodriguez was taking notes on her tablet, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. Sergeant Kevin Brooks leaned back in his chair at the end of the table, his arms crossed over his chest. The operation will require speed above all else, Telvash continued. The pirates have sophisticated early warning systems. Once they detect our presence, they will begin executing hostages immediately. We estimate a window of perhaps 10 minutes from first detection to complete mission failure. A low rumble came from the other side of the table. Krunic war leader Gorthik was massive even by his species standards. His gray, rocky skin looked like armor plating, and his small red eyes glowed in the dim light. When he spoke, his voice sounded like grinding stone. Krunic forces will smash through their outer defenses, Gorthik said. Our battle shells can absorb their weapons fire while we advance. Speed through strength. The third alien representative was harder to look at. Directly. Valdari Minekeeper Silence seemed to shift and blur at the edges, like she was not quite in the same dimension as everyone else. Her voice came from inside Liza's head rather than through her ears. My warriors will confuse their thoughts and cloud their judgment, Silent's mental voice whispered. They will fire at shadows while we move unseen among them. Telvash nodded at both aliens. Then his silver eyes turned to the humans. Which brings us to the support role assignments. He touched his tablet, and a holographic display appeared above the table. The human squad will be positioned here, at the outer perimeter. Your job will be to prevent any pirates from escaping the facility and to watch for incoming reinforcements. Lisa felt her jaw clench. Support role? Yes, Telvash said, his tone patient like he was explaining something. To a slow student. Human combat doctrine is well documented throughout the Coalition database. Your species favors lengthy planning phases, deliberate movement, and methodical approaches to problem solving. These are valuable traits, but not suitable for rapid strike operations. Jake's gum popping sounded loud in the quiet room. Is that so? Gorthik's red eyes focused on the humans. No offense intended, but humans lack the physical capabilities for quick elimination missions. You cannot move as fast as Zephyrians. You cannot absorb damage like Krunic. You cannot manipulate enemy minds like Valdari. Your people are excellent at siege warfare and defensive operations, Telvash added quickly. The Battle of Kepler Station showed remarkable human tenacity and planning skills. But this mission requires rapid deployment, instant decision-making, and the ability to neutralize threats in seconds rather than minutes. Amy looked up from her tablet. How many similar operations have your species conducted together? 17. Successful raids in the past year, Telvash said proudly. Each completed within the optimal time frame with minimal casualties. And how long did the fastest one take? Kevin asked. 47 minutes from insertion to extraction, Gorthik rumbled, a new coalition record. Lisa exchanged looks with her team. 47 minutes. For what should have been a 15-minute operation at most. But she kept her expression neutral. The asteroid facility has multiple levels, Telvash continued, manipulating the hologram to show cross-sections. Zephyrian shock troops will breach through the main docking bay here. Their speed will allow them to reach the central command center before defenses can fully activate. Krunic heavy assault units will follow, using their armor to absorb counterattacks while securing key corridors. Valdari Mind Warriors will accompany both groups, disrupting enemy coordination through psychic interference. The plan looked good. On paper, Lisa had to admit that. Each alien species would use their natural advantages to overcome different aspects of the pirate defenses. Fast Zephyrians to breach quickly, tough Krunic to hold ground, sneaky Valdari to cause confusion. Human forces will establish a perimeter here. Telvash pointed to the outer edge of the asteroid field. Should any pirates attempt to flee, you will apprehend them. Should reinforcements arrive, you will delay them until the primary mission is complete. Babysitting duty? Jake muttered under his breath. If Telvash heard him, he ignored it. Are there any questions about the operation? Lisa stood up slowly. The aliens watched her with the same expression people might use when watching a house cat try to hunt a tiger. Polite interest mixed with barely hidden amusement. Just one question, she said. What happens if your rapid strike gets bogged down? What if the pirates are ready for your tactics? What if 47 minutes turns into 4 hours? Telvash's forearms spread in what might have been a shrug. Then we adapt and overcome. But based on previous operations, this scenario is highly unlikely. Pirates are not known for sophisticated tactical thinking. Right, Lisa said. She sat back down and looked at her team again. Jake had stopped chewing his gum. Amy had put down her tablet. Kevin was leaning forward now, his eyes alert. Deployment begins in 6 hours, Telvash announced. All teams. Report to your designated staging areas by 0800 station time. Dismissed. The aliens filed out of the briefing room, talking among themselves in their various languages. The humans remained seated until they were alone. Well, Amy said finally, that was insulting. They think we're slow, Jake said. They think we're stupid, Kevin corrected. Lisa smiled for the first time since the briefing began. It was not a nice smile. Good. Let them keep thinking that. The transport ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a shudder that Lisa felt in her bones. Through the small viewport, she could see the asteroid field stretching out like a field of gray rocks floating in black space, somewhere in. That mess of stone and metal was their target. 5 minutes to deployment, the pilot announced over the comm system. His voice was calm and professional, but Lisa could hear the slight tension underneath. Everyone knew this mission was important. Lisa checked her equipment one more time. Her rifle was clean and loaded. Her armor systems showed green across the board. Her comm unit crackled with chatter from the other teams as they prepared for insertion. Zephyrian units report ready, came Telvash's musical voice. Beginning approach to primary breach point. Krunic forces standing by. Gorthic's stone-grinding voice followed. Armor systems at full power. Valdore Mind Warriors prepared. Silent's mental whisper touched everyone's thoughts. Psychic dampeners offline. We are ready to begin mental warfare. Lisa keyed her own comm. Human perimeter team ready. Moving to outer marker position. Acknowledged, Telvash replied. There was a pause. Then he added, remember, your job is to watch and wait. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Jake made a rude gesture at the comm unit. Amy snorted with laughter. Kevin just shook his head. Their transport ship was smaller than the others, designed for stealth rather than assault. It carried only the 4 humans and their gear. As they approached their assigned position, Lisa watched the other ships moving toward the main target. The pirate base was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid about 2 kilometers long. Docking ports and weapon platforms stuck out from its surface like metal thorns. Lights blinked along its hull, and Lisa could see the glow of engines and reactors deep inside the rock. "Target acquired," the pilot said, "dropping you at coordinates 77 Alpha. Good hunting." The transport ship's cargo bay opened, and the 4 humans jumped out into space. Their armor's thrusters fired automatically, guiding them toward a small observation post built into a nearby asteroid. The post was supposed to be abandoned, but their scans showed it still had air and power. Lisa landed first, her boots clanging against the metal deck. The observation post was cramped and dark, filled with old monitoring equipment and empty food containers. Someone had been here recently, but not in the last few days. "Nice place," Jake said as he landed next to her. "Really screams luxury accommodations." Amy and Kevin landed a few seconds later. Amy immediately moved to the sensor station and began powering up the equipment. Kevin took position by the main viewport, his rifle ready. "Getting good readings on the target," Amy reported. "All 3 assault teams are moving into position." Lisa activated her comm and tuned in to the tactical frequency. Immediately, voices filled her earpiece as the alien commanders coordinated their attack. "Zephyrian Team 1 approaching main docking bay," came one voice. "Sensors show minimal activity. Preparing for rapid breach. Krunic heavy armor moving to secondary entry point," another voice reported. "Ready to provide support fire. Thaldari units in position," Silent's mental voice added. "Beginning psychic reconnaissance now." Through her scope, Lisa could see the first Zephyrian ships darting toward the asteroid like silver arrows. They moved incredibly fast, almost too quick for her eyes to follow. Within seconds, they had reached the main docking bay and begun their breach. "Contact," Talvesh's voice crackled over the comm. "Automated defenses are active. Taking fire from multiple gun positions." Lisa watched as bright flashes erupted around the docking bay. The pirates' weapons were firing, but the Zephyrian ships were too fast to hit easily. They danced between the laser blasts like insects avoiding a swatter. "Breach successful," Talvesh reported. "Zephyrian shock troops are inside the facility. Beginning sweep of level 1. On the tactical display, Amy pulled up a rough map of the asteroid base. Red dots showed the locations of the Zephyrian troops as they moved through the corridors. They were making good progress, but something seemed off to Lisa. "Krunic forces engaging," Gorthic's voice boomed. "Taking heavy fire, but advancing. Their weapons cannot penetrate our armor." More red dots appeared on the map as the Krunic heavy assault troops smashed their way into the base. Unlike the quick Zephyrians, the Krunic moved slowly but steadily, absorbing damage and returning fire with their massive weapons. "Thaldari units report enemy confusion increasing," Silent whispered into their minds. "Pirate coordination is breaking down under psychic pressure." For the first few minutes, everything seemed to be going according to plan. The 3 alien teams were using their natural advantages to overcome the pirate defenses. Fast Zephyrians avoided damage, tough Krunic absorbed it, and sneaky Thaldari caused confusion. But then something changed. "Zephyrian Team 2 reporting heavy resistance," a new voice said over the comm. "The pirates seem to know our movement patterns. They're anticipating our approach routes." Lisa frowned and looked more closely at the tactical display. The Zephyrian red dots had stopped advancing and were clustered around what looked like a heavily defended checkpoint. "Krunic forces encountering organized resistance," Gorthic reported, his voice strained. "They have prepared positions specifically, designed to counter our armor." Concentrated fire is beginning to cause damage. Valdari units report psychic countermeasures. Silent's mental voice sounded frustrated. Someone here has experience fighting our kind. Our mental attacks are being blocked. Jake lowered his binoculars and looked at Lisa. Sounds like the pirates did their homework. Lisa nodded. The pirates had obviously studied coalition tactics from previous raids. They knew how each alien species fought, and they had prepared accordingly. Narrow corridors to limit Zephyrian speed. Concentrated firepower to overwhelm Krunic armor. Psychic shielding to block Valdari mind tricks. All teams report status, Talvash's voice commanded. Zephyrian units pinned down at checkpoint 7, came the reply. Unable to advance without taking heavy casualties. Krunic forces held up at secondary breach, Gorthic growled. Pirates have established overlapping fields of fire. Advancing will result in significant losses. Valdari reconnaissance blocked. Silent admitted. Cannot determine enemy positions or numbers through psychic means. There was a long pause on the com channel. Then Telvash's voice returned, sounding less confident than before. All units hold position and reassess. Command is analyzing the situation. Amy looked up from her sensor station. They're stuck. Kevin nodded from his position by the viewport. Pirates were ready for them, knew exactly what to expect. Lisa watched the tactical display as the red dots representing coalition forces stopped moving. The quick strike was turning into exactly the kind of prolonged engagement that the aliens had wanted to avoid. How long before the pirates start killing? Hostages? Jake asked. Lisa checked her chronometer. They had been in position for 18 minutes. According to the briefing, they had maybe 40 minutes total before the pirates decided the rescue was a threat and began executing their prisoners. 22 minutes, she said. Maybe less. On the con channel, she could hear the alien commanders arguing about what to do next. Their voices were getting louder and more frustrated as each species blamed the others for the failure. So much for coalition teamwork. Amy muttered. Lisa continued watching the tactical display. The situation was getting worse by the minute. If something didn't change soon, this mission was going to end very badly for everyone involved, especially the hostages. The alarm started as a low wailing sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Lisa watched through her scope as red warning lights began flashing all across the pirate asteroid base. What had been a quiet infiltration was now a full-scale battle. Alert status confirmed, Amy said from her sensor station. The entire facility is now on high alert. All defensive systems are online. The tactical display showed the coalition forces still stuck in the same positions they had been in for the past 10 minutes. The red dots representing their troops hadn't moved forward at all. If anything, they seemed to be pulling back slightly. Zephyrian team leader to command. Talvash's voice crackled over the comm. His usual musical tone was strained and sharp. We are taking concentrated fire from prepared positions. The pirates have set up crossfire zones that prevent our rapid movement tactics. Request immediate support. Krunic forces encountering heavy resistance. Gorthic's grinding voice followed. They have plasma cannons specifically positioned to target our armor weak points. We are taking damage and cannot advance without losing troops. Lisa shook her head. The pirates had obviously studied every previous coalition raid. They knew exactly how each alien species fought and had prepared perfect counters for each approach. Valdora units report complete psychic blockade, Silent's mental voice whispered, sounding frustrated and tired. Someone in that facility has military-grade psionic shielding. We cannot penetrate their mental defenses or cause confusion among their ranks. Kevin lowered his rifle and looked at Lisa. They're completely screwed. Language, Lisa said automatically, but she was thinking the same thing. The coalition's entire battle plan had been based on each species using their natural advantages. Without those advantages, they were just three groups of soldiers stuck in a shooting match. They couldn't win. Jake was monitoring a different frequency on his comm unit. Suddenly his face went pale. "Lisa, you need to hear this." He switched his COM to speaker mode. A harsh voice with a thick accent filled the observation post. "Coalition forces, this is Captain Vex of the Red Star Brotherhood. Your pathetic attack has failed. Our sensors show your forces pinned down and unable to advance. You have 30 minutes to withdraw from this system, or we begin executing the hostages." Lisa felt ice form in her stomach. 30 minutes. That was even less time than they had estimated. The voice continued. "We have 7 high-ranking diplomats from your precious coalition. 3 from the Zephyrian Trade Union, 2 from the Krunic Empire, and 2 from the Valdari Collective. Their deaths will be broadcast on all frequencies to show what happens when you interfere with our operations. This is Commander Telvash of the Coalition Task Force," came the reply over the comm. "We demand proof of life for the hostages." There was a pause, then the sound of struggling and muffled voices. A new voice came over the channel, weak and frightened. "This is Ambassador Kelthin of the Zephyrian Trade Union. We are alive, but they say they will start with me in 30 minutes. If you don't withdraw, please, you must." The transmission cut off abruptly. Amy checked her chronometer. 29 minutes and counting. On the tactical frequency, Lisa could hear the alien commanders arguing. Their voices were getting louder and more desperate as they tried to figure out what to do. "We need to regroup and try a different approach," Telvash was saying. "Perhaps if we coordinate our attacks better. There is no time for regrouping," Gorthic interrupted. "It will take at least 40 minutes to pull back and reposition our forces. Psychic assault remains impossible," Silent added. "The mental shielding is too strong. We cannot affect their decision-making process." Lisa studied the tactical display more carefully. The pirate base was shaped like a long cylinder with multiple levels. The main assault teams were all stuck at the outer levels, trying to fight their way through heavily defended choke points. But there were other ways into the facility. "Amy, can you pull up the detailed schematics of that asteroid?" Lisa asked. Amy's fingers flew over her tablet. "Got them." "What are you looking for?" "Service tunnels, maintenance shafts, anything that bypasses the main corridors." The display changed to show a cross-section view of the base. Lisa could see the main corridors where the alien forces were trapped, but she could also see a network of smaller passages running throughout the facility. "There," she said, pointing to a maintenance shaft that ran from the outer docking ring all the way to the central command area. "That service tunnel connects to the detention level." Jake leaned over to look at the display. "That's a long crawl through unknown territory. Better than sitting here while hostages get executed," Lisa replied. Kevin joined them at the display. "Look at this." The tunnel has multiple access points, but they're all protected by automated defenses. Motion sensors, laser grids, guard stations. The aliens can't use this route, Amy said. Zephyrians are too big for those narrow spaces. Krunic are way too big. And Valdari need direct line of sight for their psychic abilities. Lisa studied the route more carefully. It would be dangerous. The maintenance tunnel was barely wide enough for one person at a time. There were at least 6 different security checkpoints along the way. And at the end, they would have to somehow neutralize whatever guards were watching the hostages. But it was possible. Maybe. "Lisa," Jake said quietly, "we have direct orders to maintain perimeter watch. Telvash specifically told us not to engage, unless absolutely necessary." "How much more absolutely necessary does it get?" Lisa replied. "In 26 minutes, those hostages are going to start dying. She activated her comm and switched to the command frequency. Command, this is human. Perimeter team, we have identified a possible infiltration route to the hostage location. Negative, human team. Telvesh's voice came back immediately. You are to maintain your current position. We are working on a solution. With respect, Commander, what solution? Your forces have been pinned down for 15 minutes with no progress. We will find a way. That is an order. Lisa looked at her team. Jake was shaking his head slowly. Amy was biting her lip and staring at the tactical display. Kevin was checking his rifle and gear. Understood, Command, Lisa said into her comm. Then she switched it off. You're thinking about disobeying a direct order, Jake said. It wasn't a question. I'm thinking about saving lives, Lisa replied. Those hostages are going to die if someone doesn't do something. The aliens think we're too slow for this kind of mission, Amy said. Maybe they're right, Kevin added. Maybe we'll just get ourselves killed and accomplish nothing. Lisa stood up and began checking her equipment. Or maybe they don't understand what slow and methodical actually means. She looked at her team. I'm going. Anyone who wants to stay here and follow orders can do that. I won't blame you. Jake sighed and stood up. Well, when you put it that way. Amy closed her tablet and grabbed her gear. Someone needs to keep you idiots alive. Kevin was already moving toward the exit. 24 minutes and counting. If we're going to do this, we need to move now. Outside the observation post, space was cold and dark. The pirate base loomed ahead of them, like a metal mountain studded, with weapons and warning lights. Somewhere inside that fortress, 7 people were counting down the minutes until their execution. And somewhere inside that fortress, the pirates were about to learn what humans meant by efficient. Lisa's boots made no sound as she landed on the outer hull of the pirate asteroid. Her armor's magnetic clamps engaged automatically, holding her steady against the rough metal surface. 20 meters behind her, Jake, Amy, and Kevin landed in. Sequence, their movements precise and controlled. Comes discipline from here on, Lisa whispered into her helmet radio. Short range only, no chatter. The maintenance access hatch was exactly where the schematics had shown it would be. A simple metal door marked with warning symbols in 3 different alien languages. Lisa pulled out her electronic toolkit and began working on the lock mechanism. Timer? She asked quietly. 18 minutes until they start killing hostages, Amy replied. The lock clicked open. Lisa carefully lifted the hatch and peered inside. The maintenance tunnel was dark and narrow, barely wide enough for one person. Red emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the metal walls. Motion sensors active, Kevin reported, checking his scanner. 3 different types. Pressure plates. In the floor, heat detectors on the walls, and optical sensors at regular intervals. The pirates really don't want visitors, Jake muttered. Lisa studied the tunnel layout on her tablet. The first security checkpoint was 50 meters ahead. According to the schematics, it had automated turrets and an alarm system that would alert the entire base if triggered. Remember the plan, she said to her team. We're not fast like the Zephyrians. We're not tough like the Krunik. We're not tricky like the Valdori. But we're something else. What's that? Amy asked. Thorough. Lisa dropped into the tunnel first. The space was cramped and uncomfortable, but she had been in worse places. She moved forward slowly, studying every surface and shadow. Her helmet display showed the locations of the motion sensors as faint red outlines. The first pressure plate was easy to spot once she knew what to look for. A slight difference in the floor coloring marked where the sensor was hidden. Lisa carefully stepped around it and continued forward. The heat detector was trickier. It was designed to sense body temperature, but Lisa's armor had thermal dampeners. She activated them and felt the suit's cooling system hum to life. Her body heat signature dropped to match the ambient temperature of the tunnel. The optical sensor was the most dangerous. A tiny camera lens watched the tunnel from a hidden position in the ceiling. But cameras could only see what was in front of them. Lisa studied the angle of the lens, calculated its field of view, and found a blind spot near the left wall. She moved through the blind spot like a shadow. "Clear," she whispered into her comm. "Come forward one at a time. Follow my exact path." Jake came next, his larger frame making the tight space even more challenging. But he moved with the same careful precision, stepping exactly where Lisa had stepped, staying in the same blind spots she had found. Amy followed, then Kevin. Each of them moved slowly and deliberately, taking time to analyze each obstacle before attempting to bypass it. "First checkpoint ahead," Lisa reported as they reached a wider section of the tunnel. 2 automated turrets and a motion sensor grid. Through a small window, she could see the checkpoint. It was a chamber about 10 meters long with turrets mounted on the ceiling. Red laser beams crisscrossed the space in a complex pattern that would detect anything larger than a mouse. Standard approach would be to rush through and hope to avoid the lasers, Jake observed. Zephyrian approach, Lisa agreed. Fast but sloppy. Krunic would just walk through and absorb the damage, Kevin added. Thaldari would try to trick the sensors somehow, Amy said. Lisa studied the turret positions and laser patterns more carefully. "We do it the human way." She pulled out a small device from her toolkit. It was an electromagnetic pulse generator, designed for disabling electronic systems. But instead of using it immediately, she spent several minutes studying the checkpoint's power grid. "The turrets are on a separate circuit from the lasers," she said quietly. "If I hit the right junction box, I can disable the turrets without affecting the motion sensors." "Won't that trigger an alarm?" Amy asked. "Not if I make it look like a maintenance fault," Lisa replied. She connected her device to a specific power coupling and adjusted its settings. Maintenance systems go down all the time in places like this. The pirates probably ignore those alarms. She activated the device. There was a brief flicker in the lights. Then the turrets went silent. The laser grid remained active, but now it was harmless. Just lights with no weapons to back them. "Up, brilliant," Kevin whispered. They moved through the checkpoint, stepping carefully around the laser beams. On the other side, Lisa reactivated the turrets from another junction box. To anyone monitoring the systems, it would look like a brief power fluctuation had caused a temporary shutdown. "Checkpoint 2, Amy reported as they continued through the tunnel. Guard station with 2 pirates on duty. Lisa peered through another window and saw 2 aliens sitting at a monitoring station. They were watching screens that showed feeds from cameras throughout the base. Both of them looked bored and tired. Zephyrian approach would be to rush past them, Jake said. Krunic would smash through the wall, Kevin added. Thaldari would try to confuse their minds, Amy finished. Lisa watched the guards more carefully. They were taking turns looking at the screens, but there were gaps in their attention pattern. Every few minutes, both of them would look away from the monitors at the same time. Human approach, she said. We wait for the right moment. They waited and waited. Lisa counted the guards' attention cycles, timing their breaks in surveillance. After 8 minutes of patient observation, she found what she was looking for. Shift change in 30 seconds, she whispered. When they both look at the duty roster, we move. The moment came. Both guards turned to check a clipboard on their desk. Lisa and her team moved through their blind spot like ghosts, staying low and quiet. By the time the guards looked back at their screens, the humans were already past their station. Checkpoint 3, Lisa announced. Laser grid and automated sentry. This obstacle was more complex. The laser grid was denser, and a robotic sentry patrolled back and forth across the chamber. The robot had multiple sensors and weapons, designed to stop any intruder who made it this far. Timer? Lisa asked. 8 minutes, Amy replied. Lisa studied the sentry's patrol pattern. It moved in a predictable route, but there were no gaps long enough for a person to cross safely. The robot was too well designed for conventional infiltration. Methods. The sentry has to recharge, Kevin observed. Look at its movement pattern. It slows down every 12 minutes. Not enough time, Jake said. We'd need at least 5 minutes for all of us to cross. Lisa continued watching the robot. It was well built and well programmed, but it had one weakness that its designers probably never considered. It was predictable. Amy, can you hack into the maintenance network? Lisa asked. Already on it, Amy replied, connecting her tablet to a nearby data port. What do you need? Schedule a routine maintenance diagnostic on that sentry, Lisa said. Make it look like a scheduled system check. Amy's fingers flew over her tablet. Done. Diagnostic will begin in 90 seconds and last for exactly 4 minutes. They waited. When the diagnostic began, the sentry stopped patrolling and entered maintenance mode. Its sensors went offline, and it remained stationary while running internal system checks. Now, Lisa said, they crossed the chamber quickly but quietly, moving around the laser grid while the sentry was blind. As they reached the other side, the diagnostic ended and the robot resumed its patrol. Final checkpoint, Lisa whispered as they approached the last obstacle. This one leads directly to the detention level. Through the window, she could see the most heavily defended position yet. Multiple guards, overlapping sensor fields, and backup alarms that would trigger if anything went wrong. 5 minutes, Amy reported. Lisa looked at her team. They were tired from the long crawl through the tunnels, but their eyes were sharp and focused. They had made it this far using patience, planning, and precision. Remember, she said quietly, we're not fast. We're not tough. We're not tricky. But we are something the pirates never planned for. What's that? Jake asked. Lisa smiled grimly. Humans who know exactly what they're doing. Lisa pressed her face against the small window and studied the detention chamber. The room was large and rectangular, about 20 meters long and 10 meters wide. 7 hostages sat bound in chairs in the center of the space, their backs to each other in a tight circle. 12 armed pirates stood guard around them, their weapons ready. The pirates were a mix of different species. Lisa counted 4 humans, 3 Zephyrians, 2 Krunic, and 3 beings she didn't recognize. All of them looked alert and professional. These weren't random criminals. They were trained soldiers. 3 minutes, Amy whispered from behind her. Lisa studied the room layout more carefully. The guards were positioned in a defensive pattern that gave them overlapping fields of fire. Anyone trying to enter through the main door would be caught in crossfire from multiple angles. The pirates had obviously done this before, but they had made one mistake. They were all watching the main entrance. The maintenance hatch that Lisa and her team were using opened near the ceiling in the back corner of the room. The pirates weren't expecting anyone to come from above. Jake, take positions. 1 through 3, Lisa said quietly, pointing to guards on the left side of the room. Kevin, 4 through 6 on the right. Amy, 7 and 8 near the back wall. I'll take 9 through 12 in the center. That's a lot of targets in a small space, Jake said. What about the hostages? Lisa studied the positioning again. The hostages were sitting low in the center, while the guards were standing around the edges. If her team aimed carefully, they could hit the guards without endangering the prisoners. Single shots, aimed fire, no room for error, Lisa said. We get one chance at this. If we miss anyone, they'll start shooting hostages. She checked her rifle one more time. The weapon was clean and perfectly calibrated. She had loaded it with armor-piercing rounds that would punch through pirate body armor without over-penetrating and hitting the hostages behind them. Remember, We're not trying to be fast, Lisa continued. We're trying to be perfect. Through the window, she could see one of the pirate leaders checking his chronometer. A human with scars on his face and military tattoos on his arms. He was probably the one called Captain Vex, who had made the threats over the radio. 2 minutes, the scarred pirate announced to his men. Get ready to make an example of the Zephyrian ambassador. Make sure the cameras are recording. Lisa felt her jaw tighten. The pirates weren't just planning to execute the hostages. They were going to broadcast it as propaganda to show other worlds what happened when they opposed the Red Star Brotherhood. She carefully opened the maintenance hatch, moving slowly to avoid making any noise. The hinges were well oiled and silent. Below her, the pirates continued their preparations, completely unaware that death was watching them from above. Lisa dropped silently into the room, landing behind a stack of supply crates near the back corner. Her team followed one by one, each, landing with barely a whisper of sound. Years of training had taught them how to move like shadows. The pirates were still focused on their countdown. One of them was setting up a camera to record the execution. Another was checking the restraints on the Zephyrian ambassador. None of them noticed the 4 humans taking positions around the room. 1 minute, Captain Vex announced. Begin final. Preparations. Lisa raised her rifle and looked through the scope. The crosshairs settled on the scarred pirate's forehead. From this angle, she could take the shot cleanly, without endangering any of the hostages. But she didn't fire yet. She waited. Through her earpiece, she could hear the other coalition forces still fighting in the outer sections of the base. Telvash was calling for a coordinated push that wouldn't happen in time. Gorthic was requesting heavy weapons that wouldn't arrive before the deadline. Silent was reporting continued psychic interference that couldn't be overcome. The aliens were still thinking like aliens. Fast but predictable. Strong but inflexible. Clever but complicated. Lisa thought like a human. 30 seconds, Captain, Vex said. He drew his sidearm and pointed it at the Zephyrian ambassador's head. Any last words, Coalition scum? The ambassador looked up at him with dignity, despite his fear. The Coalition will never negotiate with terrorists. Others will come for us. Not in time, Vex laughed. Your precious rescue force is pinned down in the outer levels. They can't even reach this section of the base. Lisa settled her breathing and steadied her aim. Around the room, she knew her team was doing the same thing. Jake would be targeting the guards on the left. Kevin would have the ones on the right. Amy would be covering the back positions. 10 seconds, Vex announced. Lisa's finger moved to the trigger. She had calculated the shot angle, compensated for the room's artificial gravity, and adjusted for the armor-piercing round's ballistics. The crosshairs were steady on her target. 5. The pirates raised their weapons. 4. The hostages closed their eyes. 3. Lisa's breathing stopped. 2. Time seemed to slow down as Lisa's training took over. She could see every detail of the room with perfect clarity. The exact position of each guard. The angle of their weapons. The distance to each target. 1. Lisa squeezed the trigger. The room erupted in violence, but it was controlled violence. Precise violence. Human violence. Lisa's shot took Captain Vex in the center of his forehead, dropping him instantly. Before his body hit the floor, Jake's rifle spoke 3 times in rapid succession, taking down the guards on the left side of the room. Kevin's shots came a split second later, 3 more precise impacts that eliminated the pirates on the right. Amy's rifle cracked twice, and the guards near the back wall collapsed. The entire engagement lasted exactly 4.7 seconds. When the shooting stopped, 12 pirates lay dead on the floor. 7 hostages sat unharmed in their chairs, shocked but alive. And 4 humans stood in perfect firing positions, their weapons still raised and ready. Clear, Lisa announced. She moved quickly to the hostages, while her team maintained security. The Zephyrian ambassador looked up at her with wide eyes. "How?" he asked in a shaky voice. "How did you get here so fast?" Lisa cut his restraints with her combat knife. "We didn't get here fast. We got here right." She activated her comm system and switched to the coalition frequency. "Command, this is human perimeter team. Hostages are secure. Repeat, all hostages are alive and secure." There was a long pause on the channel. Then Telvash's voice came through, filled with disbelief. "Human team, please confirm your last transmission. Did you say the hostages are secure?" "Confirmed," Lisa replied as she freed the next hostage. 7 coalition diplomats, all unharmed. Detention chamber is under human control. But how? Telvash asked. "Our forces haven't even reached the inner levels yet." Lisa smiled as she cut the last hostage free. "We took a shortcut." Jake was already setting up a defensive perimeter near the main door. Kevin was checking the maintenance tunnel for possible escape routes. Amy was treating minor injuries on the rescued diplomats. "Amy, time to full extraction?" Lisa asked. "Coalition forces should reach this level in approximately 15 minutes, Amy replied, checking her tactical display. "Copy that. We'll hold this position until relief arrives." Lisa looked around the detention chamber. 12 dead pirates, 7 living hostages, and 4 humans who had just proven that sometimes the best way to be fast was to be thorough. On her comm, she could hear the alien forces finally making progress through the outer levels. With the pirates' command structure disrupted and their attention focused on the detention chamber, the coalition troops were breaking through the defensive positions that had stopped them before. The mission was going to be a success after all. But not because the aliens had been fast or strong or clever, because 4 humans had understood that sometimes the most important thing wasn't how quickly you acted, but how precisely you acted when it mattered most. The debriefing room on Nexus Prime was crowded and tense. Lisa sat at the same metal table where she had been dismissed just 2 days earlier, but the atmosphere was completely different now. Instead of condescending alien commanders explaining why humans weren't suitable for combat missions, she was facing a room full of very quiet and very thoughtful military leaders. Commander Telvash stood at the front of the room, but he wasn't giving a briefing this time. He was watching a holographic display that showed security footage from the pirate asteroid base. The recording played the detention chamber assault in slow motion, frame by frame. "Replay it again," Gorthic rumbled from his position at the table. The massive Krunic war leader leaned forward. His red eyes focused intently on the display. Telvash touched his control pad, and the footage started over. Lisa watched herself and her team drop into the room, take positions, and execute 12 precise shots in less than 5 seconds. Even in slow motion, the engagement looked impossibly fast and clean. "I have reviewed this recording 17 times, Silent's mental voice whispered into everyone's thoughts. "I still do not understand how it was possible." Lisa exchanged glances with her team. Jake was sitting next to her, still chewing gum with the same calm expression he always wore. Amy was taking notes on her tablet, documenting everything for their after-action report. Kevin sat at the end of the table with his arms crossed, watching the aliens with quiet amusement. "The tactical analysis is challenging," Telvash said. Finally, his musical voice sounded strained and confused. "Our computers calculate that the probability of 12 simultaneous kills with 0 hostage casualties should be less than 3%, even for experienced marksmen. Your people achieved 100% accuracy," Gorthic added, "in a confined space, under extreme time pressure, against trained opponents who were expecting trouble." Lisa shrugged. "We had good intel and clear lines of sight." That cannot be the only explanation, Telvash protested. Our Zephyrian shock troops are trained for rapid engagement scenarios. Our accuracy rates in similar situations average 67%. Krumik heavy assault units achieve 71% accuracy in close-quarters combat, Gorthok said, but we require overwhelming firepower to compensate for missed shots. Valdari Mind Warriors prefer to avoid direct confrontation entirely, Silent admitted. Our success rates in room-clearing operations are significantly lower than either Zephyrian or Krunic forces. Amy looked up from her tablet. What were your casualty rates in those operations? It was an uncomfortable silence. Finally, Telvash answered. Coalition forces typically suffer 12 to 15% casualties in hostage rescue scenarios. The hostages themselves, survival rates average around 78%. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. 22% of hostages died during successful coalition rescue operations. That meant if her team hadn't acted, at least one of the 7 diplomats would probably have been killed, even if the aliens had eventually broken through. How? Gorthik asked bluntly. How did 4 humans accomplish what 3 coalition assault teams could not? Lisa considered her answer carefully. She could see that the alien commanders were genuinely trying to understand, not just looking for excuses or blame. You want to know the real difference between human tactics and coalition tactics? She asked. Telvash nodded eagerly. Please. Our analysis teams are completely baffled. Lisa stood up and walked to the holographic display. She pointed to the image of the detention chamber, frozen at the moment just before the shooting started. Look at this room. What do you see? 12 hostile targets in defensive positions, Telvash said immediately. 7 hostages requiring protection, Gorthik added. A complex tactical environment with multiple variables, Silent finished. Lisa smiled. That's exactly the problem. You see 12 separate targets, 7 separate objectives, and dozens of separate variables. You're thinking about 12 different shots that need to be fired by 4 different people at the same time. She manipulated the display to show the room from different angles. A Zephyrian would try to move fast enough to take out all 12 targets before they could react. A Krunic would try to absorb their return fire while fighting through them, one by one. A Valdari would try to confuse them or turn them against each other. Those are logical approaches, Telvash said defensively. They're alien approaches, Lisa corrected. Humans think differently. We don't see 12 separate targets. We see one tactical problem with one optimal solution. She pointed to the moment. In the recording when her team opened fire, we didn't coordinate 12 individual shots. We executed one synchronized action. Each of us had specific responsibilities, but we were all part of the same plan. Jake spoke up for the first time. It's like music. You don't hear each instrument separately. You hear the whole song. But how do you achieve such precision under pressure? Telvash asked. Our psychological profiles indicate that stress reduces accuracy and increases reaction time for most species. Amy closed her tablet and joined the conversation. You're thinking about it backwards. We don't overcome stress. We use it. Explain, Gorthik demanded. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, Kevin said from his position at the table. We didn't chase down prey by being faster or stronger. We did it by being more determined and more efficient than anything else on our planet. Lisa nodded. When humans are under pressure, we don't panic. We focus. The more dangerous the situation, the more carefully we think about it. She manipulated the display again, showing the team's approach through the maintenance tunnels. Look at how we infiltrated the base. We didn't rush through the security systems. We studied each obstacle until we understood exactly how to defeat it. Your species calls this slow and methodical, Telvash said. Other species call it that, Lisa corrected. We call it thorough. Silent's mental voice carried a note of wonder. You do not measure speed by velocity. You measure it by efficiency. Exactly, Lisa said. A Zephyrian can cross a room in 2 seconds. But if he has to cross it 3 times because he missed his targets, he's actually slower than a human who crosses it once and hits everything perfectly. Turn to face the alien commanders directly. You assigned us to perimeter duty because you thought we couldn't move fast enough for rapid operations. But you were measuring the wrong thing. The room was quiet for a long moment as the aliens processed this information. Finally, Telvash spoke. The Coalition has conducted rapid strike operations for over 50 years. We have refined our tactics based on the natural abilities of each member species. But our average mission duration is 47 minutes, and our casualty rates remain ... problematic. How long did it take you to complete the actual objective? Gorthic asked. Amy checked her chronometer logs. From insertion to hostage rescue, 38 minutes. From mission start to full extraction, 51 minutes. But the critical phase, Telvash said slowly, the actual elimination of threats and rescue of hostages ... that took less than 5 seconds. 4.7 seconds, Jake corrected around his gum. Silent's mental voice was quiet and thoughtful. We have been optimizing for the wrong variables. We focused on speed of movement and overwhelming force. Humans optimize for speed of resolution. Lisa returned to her seat. There's something else you should understand about human tactics. What? Telvash asked. We don't just plan for success. We plan for perfection. Lisa looked around the table at the alien faces. Your 78% hostage survival rate might be acceptable for your species. For humans, it's a failure. But surely some casualties are inevitable in combat operations, Gorthic protested. Not if you do it right, Kevin said simply. Telvash was quiet for several minutes, studying the tactical recordings and data reports spread across the table. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, more respectful. Staff Sergeant Martinez, I owe you and your team an apology. We underestimated not just your capabilities, but your entire approach to warfare. Apology accepted, Lisa said. I have a proposal, Telvash continued. The Coalition has 17 similar operations planned for the next 6 months. Hostage rescues, precision strikes, infiltration missions. Would you be willing to serve as tactical advisor for these operations? Lisa looked at her team. Jake nodded slightly. Amy was already opening her tablet to take notes. Kevin just smiled. We'd be honored, Lisa said. Excellent. Telvash stood up and activated his communication system. Command, this is Telvash. I am recommending the immediate formation of a new Special Operations Unit under human leadership. Priority classification, highest. As the debriefing broke up and the aliens filed out of the room, Amy turned to Lisa with a grin. So what do you think they'll call us? The Human Rapid Response Team? The Coalition Special Forces? Lisa smiled back. I don't care what they call us, as long as they understand one thing. What's that? Jake asked. When you do it right the first time, Lisa said, you don't need to do it fast.